In the name of Amen, the Supreme, the All-Powerful, the one and only true Lord, in Amen we trust. As the Republic of Mentellect, the real 144,000 that's being gathered in this day and time, the Mentalists. Good evening, I'm your host, the intellectual Newton Incarnate. This is Mentellect Radio, and tonight we're going to be discussing the difference between Native Americans and American Indians. A line has to be drawn in the sand with this, because everybody that I've been watching who's been presenting these we not African, we Native American, like this guy Dane Calloway and all these other people, and they still calling black people American Indians. They'll say so-called black people are Native Americans, which is true, but then they'll try to use the word American Indians as synonymous with Native American, and that's not correct. The American Indian and the Native American are two totally different things. All right, the Native American is the people who are being called black people here in America. That's the Native Americans. Those are the descendants of the Olmecs, the Aztec, the Inca, the Mayan. Those are the Native Americans. The Native Americans have woolly hair, woolly afro hair, bronze complected skin with many different shades, from light bronze, beige complexion, all the way to dark reddish bronze to dark bronze complexion and whatnot. We have different shades of bronze, or copper colored, as they say. Copper colored, bronze complected people with woolly hair. That is your Native Americans, the people who are native to this land called America, which is named after these people. All right? Not Amerigo Vespucci. Amerigo Vespucci took on that name. That wasn't his original name, Amerigo. He took on that name. That's why he's not a big figure in history, and you don't know much about Amerigo Vespucci, because the reason being is because they don't want you to know that so-called historians who like to what's the good way of saying, basically lie about history, make up history. They like to rewrite history. They don't really want you to know, because it would come out that this guy whose name is Amerigo Vespucci, who they lie and say America was named after, which it wasn't. They would come out that this guy's name was actually America. So it was something, I forget what it was, but it wasn't Amerigo, right? He changed it to Amerigo, and that could be found in books and in, from you so-called scholars who know about books, that this guy changed his name to Amerigo. That name America was already in use by a tribe of people here and was called America today. It did not come from no Italian named Amerigo Vespucci. That is a lie. Bold-faced lie. Because if it did, you would know more about him than you would know about Christopher Columbus. You don't know nothing about Amerigo Vespucci. Remember I told you that? That's a sign. That's a telltale sign. When the beasts don't tell you anything or keep certain things hidden or keep certain figures hidden in shadow, there's a reason why. Because they know that lie about where the name America would come from would come out, that these people, the name America did not come from any white man named Amerigo Vespucci, some Italian. That's a lie. He changed his name to Amerigo from the people that was already here in this side. All right? Which was your so-called black people, your copper-colored people, your bronze-skinned people. Bronze, copper-colored, reddish brown, beige complexion people. All right? With woolly hair. These are the Native Americans. Anybody that comes after the native people are immigrants. Those are immigrants. So when I say that we are the only real Americans here, so-called black people who were born here in America, Native Americans, we are the only real Americans here. Everybody else came from someplace else. That's a fact. That's a fact. If you look up the 1828 definition, like I told you, the Merriam-Webster definition of what a American is, they will tell you what a Native American is. They're describing what they're calling black people here in America today. We did not come from any Africa. In fact, this African slave trade, it was illegal to stop bringing slave ships over here after 1804, 1805. They stopped bringing ships here from Africa, and they didn't even bring any in the earlier days of transatlantic slave trade. They didn't really bring ships from Africa. They brought them from South America. That's a lie. They started making this narrative up as time went on. I told you before that they was kidnapping free black people and putting them in slavery and calling them, and that's when they started claiming that, oh, these are African descendants, because they had outlawed bringing so-called blacks from Africa. They had stopped that in the early 1800s, 1804, 1805, something like that. They stopped that. So they just took black people that was so-called black people that was here, again, those hidden people, the natives, because what was being hidden by calling you black people, what was being hidden was the fact that you were Native American, that you were native to this country. That's all Native American means, that you are native to this country called America. This is a bronze country. This is a bronze copper tone country. You see? And they wanted to hide that history, that reality, hide the connection to the Olmecs, the Aztecs, the Incas, and the Mayan people, which we come from. If you were born in America, you are a descendant of the Olmecs, the Aztecs, the Incas, and the Mayans, not the so-called Mexicans, which they want to lie and tell that story, that the Mexicans are descendants of those people. That's a lie. Talking about those Mexicans with the straight hair and who look like Indians. I mean, I say Indians, they look like East Indians. Now, this is where the American Indian thing come in, where you had the Asians, right, the Chinese, the Asians, along with some of these East Indians who are considered Asiatic people, right? When you had these Asians or these Indians, which are considered Asians as well, when you had them crossing the Bering Strait and coming over into this country, they started mixing with the so-called black people, the bronze copper-colored people that was here, us. And this is where you get the so-called American Indian from. The American Indian is the first immigrant in America. The American Indian, which is your Asians or your Asiatic people that crossed the Bering Straits, who met with the real Americans, the real Native Americans, the first people here, the descendants of the Olmecs, Aztec, Inca, and Mayan. That is your Native American. And like I said, everybody who was born here in America, you are connected to those people. The real first high societies that were built here in America, which the white man wants to hide from you by telling you that you're black people, telling you that your skin is black when you can clearly see your skin is not black, telling you about this false identity that you African when we clearly are not. You know what an African look like, and you see that the so-called Africans don't even embrace us, so-called African Americans. In fact, that terminology came from Jesse Jackson, who got the terminology from his handlers, who wanted to push this false narrative of some transatlantic slave trade that brought us from Africa, and that we are those people, that we not native to America. This is a lie, because so-called white man wanted to claim America as his own, and he has done that. Now, when you hear the word American, the first thing you think of is a Caucasian. When you hear American, the first thing you think of is a Caucasian. But see, he don't hide. But see, the white man will hide the truth in plain sight. He won't. That 1828 definition of American tells everything. And like I said, the Mexicans, those Indian-looking Mexicans with the straight dog hair like the white man. I'm not talking about the bronze-skinned Mexicans, because they are descendants of the Olmecs, and the Aztec, and the Inca, and the Mayan as well. The bronze-skinned Mexicans that they hide, they call them Afro-Mexicanos, African Mexicans. Right? They want to throw African on everything. That's bronze, because that's a way of them hiding that we are the first native people here into this country, and that we built the first societies here, the first advanced societies, as the Olmecs. And all those other people came later, you see. Like I said, what you're calling what you're calling American Indian customs and culture, the Cherokee, all these different tribes, that's from the Aztec and the Inca and the Mayan. That's Aztec, Inca, and Mayan customs, which are bronze-skinned people. Those are not Indians. Those are not Asians, and those are not East Indians. Because they always want to throw the East Indian and Asian mix in there. I heard this guy, Tariq Nasheed, and I told y'all about that. I was very verbal about that in the last things he spoke about on the Native Americans. He copied from me, straight up. I'm going to just say it like that. Tariq Nasheed copied from me, verbatim. Whole sentences are copied from me. Because he said that so-called black people came over here, was in America for 500 years. In fact, if you look at his SBA flag, Foundational Black Americans, he got 1526 up there as the time black people came here. But then he changed in mid-conversation, and It's a thing. I put it on my wall on Facebook. He changed. He go, it's my conjecture that we've been here longer than that. Okay, so if that was your conjecture, then where'd you come with this 500-year business from? Why all of a sudden did you change from, oh, we was only here 500 years and we were African to all of a sudden now we Native American and we was always here? Where'd you get that from? That came from me. That didn't come from your documentaries or Hidden Colors. That's a lie. Because if that was so, why would you put that in the documentary and then come with this, we was only here 500 years? Why wouldn't you say that from the start? That was not in your documentaries. And if it was, then you contradicted yourself. If that's in your documentaries. You see, you're known for taking people's thoughts and information or whatever the case may be, and you take it for yourself and you make money off of it and put it on a platform. But it's all good, though, as long as the truth comes out as far as that part, though. It ain't like you like this other guy who just straight up copying mental. You copying actual history and actual facts. But you need to be more clear about it if you're going to present. Don't throw it out there, Tariq Nasheed, and act like you bringing something next to the table and you're not. Because you guys are still sitting up here. That's one of the things you're doing. A lot of you guys are still sitting up here trying to say that, oh, we got Native American and African blood in us. What is Native American? What are you saying? Or we American Indian and this, that, and the third? Or you know, or this guy Dane Calloway will show those mixed race. He'll show the mixed race Asian / blacks that, you know, they got mixed in with the Asians, because that happened when they came in. The Asians mixed in with the so-called blacks or the copper-colored people. And this was, you look at your early so-called Native Americans, that was what you saw: dark-skinned, bronze-skinned people with straight hair from the Asian mix. That's what you saw. You see, and that's where that come from. But some of our people didn't mix in with them. So get that straight. There's a difference between the Native Americans, which is the descendants of the Olmecs, Aztecs, Incas, and Mayans, and the American Indian, which are descendants of the people, the Asians that crossed the Bering Straits, the Asians and these East Indians that crossed the Bering Straits and mixed in with our people when they got here. Those are the first immigrants. Those are the first immigrants to what's called America today. We are the first people here. We are not immigrants, and we were not slaves here. They forced us into slavery when the white man came over here. And because, like I said, the formula is always the same wherever the white man goes. Whenever he wants to come into a country and take over, he finds out who's warring with who. He finds out who's tribal, who got the beef with who, because that's what he does. He comes into countries that are not unified, where there's a corrupt government. Where can I get in? Where can I get in and I fit in? I'll be on certain people's side. I'll pal up to whoever's in charge, and I'll start bringing guns over, and I'll start bringing my people over, start bringing in military and whatnot, and we start putting energy into the people that we want to win, and we'll put our troops and our guns behind, and we'll fight and take over the whole thing, and then we'll put the people that we help, we'll put them under us and help them police the whole thing. That's what happened here in America. That's what happened here in America. You had the Native Americans, the bronze copper tone people, the so-called black people, right, who was in tribal wars with these mixed race people, the ones who were the copper colored and / Asian mix, because that broke down the tribal lines with that Asian mix in there, and the ones who were the Asians, they tended to side with the so-called white man. They sided, those Asian tribes, those Asian Native American tribes, those Asian American Indian, those Asian American Indian tribes sided with the white man against us. That's how that happened. That's how you get the so-called Indians, the red Indians as they call them. And the white man mixed in with them too, right? That's how you got them. The white man gave them the right to own slaves, so-called black people, the real Native Americans. The white man gave the American Indian the right to own the Native Americans, which was your so-called black people. That's what that is. And to this day, these so-called American Indians who now have Caucasians who became $5 Indians who would give $5 to get on Indian rolls and whatnot, because the white man was parceling out land to the American Indian, not the Native Americans. They tried to make it synonymous later, but they were parceling out land to the so-called American Indians, because the American Indians are the first immigrants here who crossed the Bering Straits and mixed in with us, and they sided with the so-called white man against us. You see, they needed the so-called American Indians to help them. That's why they allowed them, because they had the straight dog hair like the white man, right? They was not our people. I'm talking about the Native Americans, who basically, the descendants of the Olmecs, the Incas, the Aztec, the Mayan people, they just basically stayed amongst themselves, mixed in with themselves, and we had our woolly hair, and we had our bronze skin. We didn't have any Asian features and all this other stuff. We stayed amongst our own. And like I said, the immigrants, the first immigrants, the American Indians, and the so-called white man, the Caucasians, they got together and they enslaved the Native Americans, who you're calling so-called black people. And there was these Caucasians, a man by the name of Charles Plecker, that was in your presentation, your latest presentation. It was these people who would force, and they was doing this state to state in a lot of states, they would force people who we was referring to ourselves as Native Americans. We referred to ourselves so-called black people. Before we were being called Negroes and black people, we referred to ourselves as Native Americans. And you had these people like this guy by the name of Charles Plecker, I believe his name is. He's a notorious white supremacist and racist. They would be like, I forget what his position was in some city or whatever. I forget what it was. But you had people like this, and they worked on the census and things like that, and the registering the people, and they would tell every so-called black people who was at one point known as Native Americans, because at one point in this country we were known as Native Americans before Negro. All right, we were known as Native Americans before Negroes in this country. Because if not, then how was it that they were able to talk about the real Americans are the copper-colored races of America? They couldn't have been talking about the so-called Asian American Indians. They couldn't have been talking about them. They wasn't talking about the American Indians, because they call the American Indians what they call them. They call them red man, redskins. Do they not? They call them redskins. They call them red, the red man. There's a difference between copper and red. Is it not? Copper is more of a brownish tone, a bronze tone copper to it. They said the copper color. They didn't say the red-skinned races, because they're not the white man called the so-called American Indian redskins or red man. So then there's a difference between copper and red. So obviously they wasn't talking about the American Indians as the first Americans. They were talking about the Native Americans, the copper-colored skinned people. 1828 Merriam-Webster Dictionary. Read who the real Americans are. And they tell you in there that name American was later appropriated or stolen by the so-called white man and attached to him. Now when you see the so-called white man, he show you a flag and all this other stuff, which is really a copy or a rip-off of the British flag, right? He just redesigned the British flag and threw the gold trimming around it. Now when you see that, you think American is synonymous with the white man. He's an immigrant. He's an immigrant. Okay? He's an immigrant. He's an immigrant everywhere he goes. He's the only place the so-called white man and these humans are native to is the caves, the Caucasus Mountains. That's the only place that they're native to, the Caucasus Mountains, right, which stretches across Asia and into Europe, because there's no such place as Europe. All of that is Asia. They started calling that Europe earlier, because that's when the white man started. When he came out the caves, he started his agenda of gentrifying areas. Basically, him coming in and taking over. The first place he came in and took over and gentrified when he came out of the caves is Asia. He started taking over Asia because he was the first Caucasian. Remember, the white man is an Asian. He's a Caucasian. He's the same as an Asian. The Asians and the Caucasians are cousins. They family. Don't ever get it twisted, but get them to believe the white man and the Asian are different. The Caucasian and the Asian are different. They're not. They are the beast and the dragon is spoken of in the book of Revelation. The white man represents the beast, and the Asian represents the dragon. They're cousins. They're the same people from the same Caucasiatic mountains. They all come out of the mountains, all of these humans. They were all in caves, crawling around on all fours, you see. And we inhabited those areas. So when the white man come out of the Caucasiatic mountains, right, he come down and started taking pieces of Asia. And when he took pieces of Asia, pieces of it became Europe. That's why they'll still make reference to Asia as Eurasia. They'll make reference to it as Asia, but they know truthfully there's no such thing as Europe. That was something that they created. Asia was a space that they created, and because all of Europe is Asia. All of Europe is Asia. Okay? And like I said, the first Americans, the only real Americans are you so-called black people. So what you need to do, I'm telling all you so-called black people to do this. Stop if you're going and filling out an application or you going and putting something down, stop putting African American. Stop putting black and African American. Put Native American, because that would be more apt title. Put Native American. Because I think they have a section where they just have Native American. They got American Indian, and I think they got Native American. They tried to make them synonymous, but I think I've seen on something where they got Native American and then they got American Indian. No, every so-called black person who was born here in America should check Native American, not African American. You see, not African American. I don't check African American because I didn't come from Africa, and we're not African, and we're not black people. Our skin is not black. Every so-called black person should check Native American, because you are the only real Americans here. You are the descendants of the Aztec, the Inca, the Maya, and the Olmec people. And like I said, these people are busy sitting up here trying to steal our heritage, our Olmec heritage, right? You got these Mexicans who are nothing but a bunch of East Indians. These Mexicans with the straight hair, they're nothing but a bunch of East Indians. I'm not talking about the bronze, what they call Afro-Mexicanos, because they hide them. And it's a lot of them. It's more of them. They hide them, you see. Just like it's more so-called black people, bronze-skinned people in South America. We all over America. They hide these people, you see, because they want to whiten everything up. They want to tell you, oh, these are the Mexicans, these Asian-looking, East Indian-looking, brown-skinned, East Indian-looking Mexicans. Those are nothing but descendants of the East Indians and the Asian mix. That's what they are. And they got some of our genetic material in them, because they was doing this thing where they was taking some of these Mexicans, right, and putting their face next to the damn Olmec face and talking about, oh, see, these Mexicans, see, they got the broad noses and the thick lips. Oh, stop. If the so-called Mexicans with the straight hair got that, they got that from so-called black people. They got that from bronze, copper-colored people, because we were in Mexico first. Mexico was a part of North America. Just like South America, Central, it's all America. You see, Mexico is a part of North America, just like Canada. We were the first Canadians, all of that. All of that. So when they showing you these Mexicans next to the Olmecs, that's a big lie, because there's already been proven that those so-called the Olmecs are so-called black people. They was trying to dance around it, and they trying not to say. And then they was showing you only the Olmec faces with the helmets on there. They didn't want to show you the Olmec faces with no helmets, where you could clearly see these people with afro hair, people who had afros. They didn't want to show you the pictures of the women. It's a lot of Olmec statues. They just show you the big heads, but the crowns on them, which a lot of them had crowns, but then you had a lot of them that didn't have no crowns, and they had the straight up afro. You had the pictures of women where they got the big butts and the hips and things like that, and the broad lips. They look like chicks out the damn projects out here. Any hood you go to look just like them chicks. You see, that singer Little Mo, she damn sure Olmec. That singer Little Mo. I see all the people here, especially in the Republic of Mentor, like y'all goddamn Americans, man. Y'all Native Americans. Everybody I see in the Republic of Mentor, all the features, the complex, these are Native Americans, man. These ain't no Africans. These are Native Americans. Okay? Not American Indians. Stop showing, seeing this is a bad thing. They keep on, this is what makes it look bad when these guys are trying to present a show our people as Native American. They try to make American Indians synonymous with Native American, and it's not. It's not. They'll show these mixed race, like the guy Danka. See, here go our people. They'll show these mixed race. I'm so sick and tired of these guys showing these mixed race Asian slash bronze skin people. Basically, the Asians mixed in with our people. You'll show those mixed race people and say, see, this how. No. Show the Olmecs, the Incas, the Aztec, the Mayan people with the woolly hair, the bronze skin, without that straight dog hair on top of their head. Those, again, like I said, those people were compromised and mixed, man. We don't have to go to them and be like, oh, these is, yeah, okay, they got our genetic material in them through the mixture with the Asians, but we don't have to deal with them because there was plenty of our people that did not mix in with the Asians. Plenty of our people that did not mix in with the Asians. And the white man ended up classifying them as African American or Negro because they wanted to hide the fact that these are the true Native Americans. And they got y'all fools sitting up here pushing this red, black, and green nonsense. They got us up here pushing some red, black, and green nonsense and believing that this is not our country. Okay? These damn Mexicans are a bunch of Indians. The Mexicans are Indians. The Mexicans are Indians. You can't you put a damn one of them feather head dresses on a Mexican, you couldn't tell the difference because the Mexicans are Indians. They got East Indian in them. They got East Indian and Asian. That's what a Mexican is. East Indian and Asian mix. That's why you'll see some of them have the slanted eyes. The Mexican, little short Mexicans, they have slanted eyes like Chinese. They have the hollow hair like the Asians. The Mexicans have what they call hollow hair. All right? They have hollow hair. They don't have no, they got the same fur like the so-called white man. See, that's why the white man would rather deal with them because they closer to the so-called white man. And in fact, a lot of these so-called Indian tribes, like I said, they got Caucasians who are sitting up here calling themselves heads. Google heads of Native American tribes. There's this white dude with blonde hair and blue eyes who's a damn tribal leader. They say an American Indian tribal leader. You see, because they used to just, like I said, they'll get up here and get it, and they was giving $5 to get on the roll to become classified as Indian so they could get land and all kind of other stuff. Because the white man made concessions for the American Indian. Right? Because the American Indians helped them against the so-called blacks. They helped them against our people. Your so-called American Indians with the straight hair like the so-called white man helped them against our people. That's how they was able to take over this country. You see, they gave them white man status. That was the first immigrant they gave semi-white status to. Semi-white status. In other words, they allowed them to own slaves because what they got tired of is what they seen, when bronze people, when the copper-colored bronze people, the Native Americans, the real Native Americans, when they would run off, right, they would sometimes get with these American Indians, right? They would get with the American Indians and hide amongst the American Indians. So in order to stop them from doing that, they would be like, oh, well, y'all can own land now. Y'all can own some land. Y'all can start your reservation thing, and you can have slaves. So if you saying, you seeing a slave run away, you thinking as a fellow slave owner, I'm gonna capture this person, I'm gonna bring him back to you, things like that. You're gonna sympathize, and you're not gonna hide these people. See, that's why they gave them the right to own our people because they knew who the true Native Americans were. I just proved it to you in that 1828 definition of Merriam-Webster, where they said what the American Indian, what the Americans, who the true Americans are. They didn't say the red-skinned people. They said the copper-colored people. See, this been in our face all this time, and like I said, you're gonna find out very soon, right? You're gonna find out very soon that a lot of these so-called Pan-Africanists been working with the so-called white man to make up this false history. A lot of these so-called Pan-Africanists, red, black, and green people been working right side by side with the white men to create this false history to pull us away from our true identity as Native Americans. Not as American Indians. I'm drawing the line in the sand. We are not American Indians. So please stop showing those mixed race pictures of these Asians and who are mixed with our so-called black people. Stop showing those pictures. All right? They might be family down the line. We have that Asian somewhere. They might have mixed in, but that's not what makes us Native Americans. That Asian mix does not make us Native Americans. Just us as we are with bronze mothers and bronze fathers, that makes us Native American. With just straight up bronze skin, straight up bronze man, bronze woman, bronze skinned people, we are the Native Americans. We don't need no Asian mix with us. In fact, that's what polluted our blood. That Asian is what polluted our blood. You see, that Asian mix polluted us. Those are not our people. You see, those are not our people. You see, it's the same, like I said, right? What you're seeing right now with the Asians going over into Africa and mixing in with the so-called Africans, creating that polluted race, that polluted bloodline. You see, and a lot of our people had to clean up their genetic from these damn humans. They're good for stealing our history right here, man. They're good for stealing our history, and a lot of y'all still pushing this black African American nonsense. You see, a lot of you still pushing that. A lot of you still pushing this, oh, we came over here. Like I said, the white man don't mind lying to you. He don't mind telling you a lie. He'll sit and lie right in your face and whatnot and make up some history, and then he'll teach it in school, and he'll teach your children his lies, and then next thing you know, you believe it. When they show you what a so-called Native American look like, they'll say it's synonymous with American Indian or Native American. When they say Native American, now you thinking it's some damn mongoloid with a damn feathers in his head. Because all these so-called American Indians are Asian. They're mongoloids. They're not Native Americans. Because if they so-called Native Americans, like you stupid Israelites say, because you'll claim that these slant-eyed mongoloids with feathers in their head, you'll sit up here and claim that these are so-called Native Americans. Where they native to? Where they came from? You see, where they come from? Where they get the language from? Why they look Asian? The so-called Israelites, you stand up for these type of people and you push that nonsense that these people with the straight hair and these East Indian looking / Asian looking people are the Native Americans. They are not the Native Americans. You so-called black people, really bronze people, are the Native Americans. You are the Native Americans. All right? And you need to start standing up as Americans because you are the only real Americans. Stand up as Americans. As long as everybody's they'll call themselves American immigrants. But now the white man has started this thing now where he's telling people to start just using American and taking off where they come from. Usually it used to be Italian American, Irish American, German American, all that, put where they come from and then put American on the end of it. Now the white man got them just putting American in, which is false because they immigrants. You see? But they'll still tell you to put African American. Right? They don't with the white man, they'll put white, right? What do they put for the white man on those things? They put white, right? Then they'll put Native American, American Indian, Latino, Hispanic, or black African American. Right? That's what they put on these things. But what is white? What is white? Caucasian. But notice they don't put white American. They don't put that. They just put white. Caucasian, white. Right? Then they put Native American. Then they put American Indian. Then they put black African American. You see, they do all this for a reason. Latino, Hispanic, Latino, Hispanic, Latino. See, they put all this stuff there. You see that? That's really meant to just cause confusion. That's meant to cause confusion. And like I said, a lot of you so-called black people are confused. You are confused. All right? Teaching that we all come out of Africa, right? And, you know, when we point to Africa, see, that's a problem, because when you point to that and you say, oh, we all come from here, you're going to keep pushing the African-American tagline. Because if that's the case, everybody come from Africa, then everybody's African. And, of course, if that's what you claim, that means white man African. That means the Asians are African. That means everybody's so-called African. We know that's not the case. That's not the case. Right? They only want to call you African because that's just a way for them to stick you in one place and tell you that lie and whatnot, because they're going to keep lying to you. They'll go hard to lie to you. They'll go hard to tell you that the so-called Olmecs were Mexican. There was no such thing as Mexicans when the Olmecs were around. There was no such thing as Mexican people. That's not even a real race. There's no such thing as Mexican. You see, that comes from the word Olmec. There's no such thing as Mexican people. Just like there's no such thing as Latino people. The real Latins are Caucasians. There's no such thing as Mexican people or Mexican. You speak, what do Mexicans speak? They speak Spanish. So how is it there's such thing as so-called Mexican? How is there such thing as Mexican? See? What is the American language? The American language is the first language that was spoken by the Olmecs. That's American language. Whatever language the Olmecs were speaking, that's American language. Because whatever the first language that was spoken by the first people here, they are the native language. That is the American language. All this other stuff, English is not American. English is not the American language. It is not. It's English. And English, like I said, really comes from Latin. Doesn't come from German. Because like I said, you can listen to, remember I did the thing on the linguistics, you can hear Latin. If you hear certain things spoken in Latin, you can hear the connection between the Latin and the English. You see, you can hear that. That's why, like I said, Latin was kept alive, because Latin was basically a lot of your Kemetic and those ancient Kemetic languages, along with the so-called Greeks and the Romans. They were incorporating or taking what they heard the ancient Kemites and all them speaking, and they were basically building a language from there, and that became what you call Latin today. That became Latin. Their translation of Kemetic and Semitic languages, when your Greeks and Romans started translating it and making their own words from it, that became Latin. All right? And when your so-called English came here, and they heard, what they call, like a lot of the stuff they call American Indian customs and traditions and words and language. No, that comes from the Mayans, the Olmecs, and people like that. That go from the Olmecs, because Olmecs, they had descendants here that became Mayans and Aztec. They broke up into tribes and started calling themselves these names and whatnot, and they started spreading out. Because all of these tribes, whether you call them Mayans, Aztec, Inca, all of them came out of the Olmecs. All of them came out of the Olmecs. Went to different parts of this country, and they started getting their little tribal thing going, their little groups and things going into certain areas and setting up shop and living, building communities there. And that's what so-called black people did. The copper-colored races. That's why they say the copper-colored races. When they say races with an S, they're really speaking of tribal. When you hear that, when you read that definition in Merriam-Webster's 1828 dictionary, what American is, they say the copper-colored races. They didn't say the copper-colored race. They said the copper-colored races. They use S as a plural because they were talking about the different tribes that developed out of the Olmecs. All of those tribes developed from the Olmecs. They want to act like the Olmecs just disappeared. How the hell a whole civilization of people just disappeared? They did not disappear. They just went into different areas and starting their own traditions and customs, took from the Olmec, started doing their own thing, calling it other things and whatnot. So this is where your tribes started coming from. Your first Native American tribes came out of that. Your first Native American tribes came from the descendants from the Olmecs, and which broke down into your Incas, Aztec, Mayans, and all these other people, and they started getting all tribal and building their little tribes and sub-tribes and whatnot, and this is where your Native American tribes came from. And around that time, that's when your Asians started coming over into the America. They crossed the Bering Straits. Your Asians, your East Indians came in, saw our tribes set up, and they started mixing in with us. The whole thing of the teepees that's built like pyramids and the feathers in their head, that comes from our people. That comes from us. That don't come from them. These are Asians. Where was that? And go into their history of the Asians and see where that so-called American Indian, those so-called customs using the bows and arrows and the feathers in the hair and the teepees. See where that comes from in their custom or where they come from in Asia. Where's all that come from? It don't come from nowhere. It has nothing to do with those people. I'm going to take a call. 720.
Hey, Menzor, what's up? This is Alex, man.
How you doing?
Brother,
look, do me a favor. Do me a favor. I just wanted to ask you. You're not a member of the Republic of Mentellect?
Not yet, sir. No.
Okay. Well, you can call me. I only allow people in the Republic of Mentellect to use that terminology. So until you become a member, I'm sorry. Say again.
I didn't mean to cut you off, but I understand what you're alluding to, and that's understood, sir. I'll end that. Okay. That's only out of, but pertaining to the topic, I wanted to call in and ask you, like when somebody asks you your civil status, I'm sure you don't say black. I'm sure you don't say African American. Both of those, in my opinion, tie into U.S. citizenship. So when somebody asks you your status, in my opinion, I say personally, I say American national. And I'm learning that that's a huge difference between being a national and being a citizen. Seeing that the United States is a corporation. So it's like a question comment. I know I'm kind of mixing it up, but like how do you answer that? How do you answer that question? Because I know you say, Mentellian, intellectual, but until the nations acknowledge that, how do you navigate at present as far as your civil status?
Well, I don't know. Well, first, I don't answer to that because I don't, if people ask me that, I give them no answer because first and foremost, that's none of their business. Number one, I don't have to answer anybody's question, and I don't, take to these titles that they try to tack on to us of what's your status and all that Moorish nonsense and all of that, white man nonsense. I don't care about none of that. I'm just stating the fact of who we really are as the first Americans, the only real Americans here. That if we're anything, we're going to answer anything. We answer as Americans, as Native Americans, if you're going to do that. But I don't even answer the question. We don't answer to these people.
Cause I just noticed, like, even with this vaccine thing coming down, I try to pay attention to keywords that, certain things that's being brought out, and it's like they saying U.S. citizen. So from the gate, I'm already like, look, I don't know if you're familiar with the UCC filing that some people, say it's important to file with the state to give them some type of notice as far as your status. So I'm really, listening to the topic, man, and I'm just thinking like, I know joining the republic is the ultimate solution. I understand that, but the acknowledgement of who we are, like how do we get that out as a people, like, because right now, yeah, they calling us black and they pushing that, but there's some of us, we know who we are, but it's just real hard to get that out and get that acknowledgement. So.
Well, we're not looking for no acknowledgement from them. We don't care about any acknowledgement from them. We got to get that out of our head, because no matter, and all of that stuff of filling out in these UCC codes and UFC, whatever the hell codes and all this nonsense, it don't mean nothing to the so-called white man. So, you know, it's best don't to say nothing. Say nothing. Don't even entertain that foolishness. That's all.
All right.
We know who we are. We don't need their. Then that got to come to an end in the mind of these so-called black people, especially these Moors. They with this UFC, the UCC codes, and you know, what do we call ourselves and what are our status? Man, the hell with all that though. When you start talking like that, because you never hear the white man talk like this, what his status is. You know why? Because all that really harkens back to some slave nonsense. Where your slave papers? What's your status? That's really what that harkens back to. You don't never hear the white man sitting up here talking about what my status is or what. Man, come on. No disrespect to you, but I'm just saying the Moors that push all that nonsense as if the white man give a damn about any of that.
I mean, when some of the other topics, when you bring out how the importance of raising our children under our own sovereignty in a nutshell, baby, you know, without being interrupted by the other nations.
Well, again, see this. Let me stop you here. And I don't like using that word sovereignty, because you know you don't see the so-called Jews and these other people talking about sovereignty. They just come together as a community and raise they people and they children together, and they don't go to the government asking them for things. They work together and they pool their resources and they do what they got to do. You don't have to make a big announcement about it. When those Moors do all that nonsense about sovereignty and paperwork and getting involved with the courts, it's because they really want to be connected to the so-called white man. It should be no reason why you in his courts filing any goddamn papers, talking about some UCC code and all that BS, and trying to go, and when these guys go to court and then something happens, they talking like that. I'm not a citizen of the country, and all this stupid stuff. They start reading all this Moorish nonsense. Then these niggas still get locked up in jail. Because I told you, none of that means anything. That's just some more foolishness to entertain stupidity.
And a lot of your topics, I love the topics when you touch on, you know, just the birth of our children and how the future of our seed is going to be, you know, dynamic in this entire process. So my last question and or statement is going to be, our children being born here in North America, being assigned birth certificates, social security cards, a lot of that information, from what I'm finding out, is financial documents. They're like, you know, they're tools. Even though it's paper right now, there's some history to that, going back as deep as 1933, being connected to the gold standard and all that. So my concern in seeing these documents trace our people from birth is like, it's kind of like you want to sharpen that sword to be able to be familiar with that arena, because they already got us by the toe. They tag us up, you know, from birth, and it's like,
brother, no disrespect. I don't care about any of that. We're going forward in the future. We're not going back with the Moors and going back and forth with the white man about birth certificates and all this stupid stuff. Because at the end of the day, the Moors and all these guys are still getting birth certificates. They still working for the white man. They still talking all this stuff, and they want to, you know, with all this paperwork and these black codes and laws and all that nonsense. They're not doing anything. The white man don't care about any of that. Nothing. Aside from the solar Holocaust.
Aside from the solar Holocaust, which I see as a beautiful solution to this planetary problem, from an economic standpoint, until we get that wave of upgrading, mind-changing, reality-changing energy that we both know is going to hit the planet, until then, my real last question, I guess, from a financial standpoint, and I know finances ain't all that. I'm not trying to allude to that, but it is energy. And in my opinion, it's the same energy that they tax us on, brother. Like it don't like you say, it don't matter how much money you make, it still go back to the nations. So from a independent monetary standpoint, what does the community do to financially break off? There's many elements to this separation as I see. There's a physical separation, psychological, mental separation. From a financial standpoint, especially with this global digital movement that's taking place.
You know, let me stop you, brother. Let me stop you again. If you just do what you do and do as what we do as a community and work together and stop talking about this, and like I said, this is what I can't, and no disrespect to you at all, but I can't stand when you hear these people, especially the Moors and all these people, they stay talking about the birth certificates, the records, the global, all this other stuff, but then they don't do a goddamn thing. They won't come together as a community. They won't work together. They're so busy worrying about, what the white man is doing, what he's doing with the birth certificates, what he's doing with this. But these people still want to follow Islam. They still want to follow some culture that has nothing to do with them. They want to focus on things that are irrelevant. They focus on everything other than living. Hold on. They want to focus on everything other than living as a community. They want to tell you about, with the fiat currency and all that. I'm so tired of hearing that talk. Because when you get, hold on, let me finish what I'm saying. When you give energy to things of the present, you strengthen them for tomorrow. So we don't give energy to things of the past. We give energy to ourselves for the future. So therefore, we bring the next reality of tomorrow. And that's all I got to say on that. I'm not worried about none of that stuff.
So regarding the future,
we keep things like this going by putting energy into it instead of putting energy into the community.
So regarding the future, Nuben, we know there's going to be those that's not going to make it and fall off. So I'm saying in regards to the community, and I know I'm not part of it yet, but in regards to the community, I'm not talking about those that's not going to listen to the message and adhere and connect and come in. I'm talking about the righteous that's going to be in the body of Amen. That's where my question pertains to. How does that pivot? How does that transition take place? Because when you got somebody at your front door saying, okay, we're going to take your 2 kids, you realize, okay, these people got jurisdiction over my children because of the documentation from birth. When you register your car, as you know, it becomes property to the state. So your birth certificate acts as a registry to the temple, to your flesh. So anything you do when in your flesh, you're going to have this cat trying to check you. And it's like, as that body, as that amenic body, we don't need nobody knocking at the door. Because why? Because
what you're not getting, and I'm trying to listen and be patient with you, brother. What you're not getting is people like what you're doing. You're bringing them there, and you don't even realize that. You bringing these people to us. See, and this is what happened with Dr. York. Listen to what I'm saying.
I don't mean to do that.
This is what happened with. Listen to what I'm saying, brother. This is what happened with people like Dr. York and all of them. They got caught up in all this Moorish crap, this stuff that it has nothing to do with the future and the evolution of our people. If we put focus into the future as a community, and we do as what we've been doing and just focus on the future, don't worry about none of this other stuff. It's going to start to dissipate. But see, the problem is, like I said, you put energy into things that are not real because the beast is not real. And the thing that gives him reality base is when you feed into what he's putting out. We've been living under this thing for so long, and we've been doing this in this system for a long time, and yet the things that the Moors and all these people talk about and advocate has done nothing for our people. These people still live in the same kind of way. So There's no sitting around worrying about that. We can't worry about that. We focus on the future and we just live going into the future. Not sitting up here trying to come up with no strategies to fight something that's not even real.
You broke down the book of Revelation in one of your teachings. In Revelation 13, which is Revelations being one of the the only relevant book among the Mentelians. In Revelation 13, Nuben, you speak about the beast a lot. So when you speak about that, I gotta reference Revelations. I do my digging. And pertaining to Revelation 13 is like it mentions the number of his name and how you're not able to buy, which is finances, and you're not able to sell, which is commerce. You're not basically this mark of this beast, whatever it may be. It has to be tied into finances. It has to be tied into some type of identity. So I'm in Revelation 13, and I'm like, damn. It says, "He that have wisdom, let him count the number of the beast." And when you count it up, Nuben, it's 18, sir. Federal Reserve Bank, 18 letters. Social Security card, 18 letters. United States dollar, 18 letters. I believe in the course of the Aminic movement. I believe in this. I understand it. But
no, you don't.
Until this thorn.
Stop. You don't. Because if you did, then you wouldn't have used the word believe, and you wouldn't have said until and this. Because you said 13 in the Revelation, but then you talking about counting the mark of the beast. But then you leave out a very important part in the book of Revelation. Those who are going to carry the mark of the Lord on them. Those who carry the mark of the Lord, which is Amen on them, they're not focused on this. See, this is the part you're not getting. You focus more on the beast than on those who carry the mark of the beast, rather than those who carry the mark of the Lord. Because you focusing on that is telling me something else. We focusing on something totally different. That's why I said you don't get this.
That's fact.
Have a nice night, brother. All right. People focus on the wrong things. If you truly acknowledge the reality of the revelation, if you truly acknowledge that those who are going to carry the mark of the beast versus those who are going to carry the mark of the Lord, the ones who carry the mark of the beast, they worry about these things from the beast. They focus constantly on the beast. They don't worry. They worry about the beast, and those are the ones who carry the mark and bring the beast to us. And then you got those who carry the mark of the Lord, right? And they listening to this message. They hearing the message, but they're not really listening. They're not listening because you just put the beast over the Lord. You believe in the beast. You believe in his mark. You believe in trading and all this other stuff like that. Obviously, if you bear witness to the book, then that means that there's going to be an alteration in those who carry the mark of the Lord, or the law and the order, which is Amen, versus those who carry the mark of the beast. That's all I'm going to say on that. Let me take another call. 470.
Menzek Amen Ray. Emru Scott Z. Just wanted to chime in really quickly for the brother who said what he was saying about, basically I took on the mark of Amen, which is 444. And from that point on, the same sheriffs or whatever, same so-called law enforcement who was locking me up are the same ones who are opening doors for me. And Amen himself is using all of these people to secure and protect me and follow me everywhere I go, opening doors when I'm going in, as I'm coming out. Everything changes. It's a literal upper-outer unimental force. It's a wall. It's not something you can look at from a three-dimensional vantage point. It just is what it is. And, you know, for someone to be, to speak from a high place of intelligence as the brother did, that's clearly just, you know, digging that he claimed he was doing. That was research basically in the white man's books. Any book that you look in this three-dimensional realm, in this three-dimensional world, is going to be of the past, present, which is a future term. And once you take on the mark of Amen, you don't never look back. You're just like Lot, or whatever, in the Bible. You know, you basically looking to be, you're going to turn into a pillar of salt. Just take on the mark of Amen. If you were not already born with it and recognized it early in the game, just listen to the Messiah, the bright Messiah, and that's just what it is moving forward. Either that or just be destroyed. Simple as that. And with that,
a lot of these people are destroyed. That's why they still sitting around here worrying about the beast. You know why they worry about the beast so much? Because they got the mark of the beast on them, straight up.
On them.
And they really don't bear witness to Amen. They don't. They do not bear witness to Amen. They bear witness to the beast. That's why they worry about him so much. Yeah, I hear what you know what that's really saying. Yeah, I hear what you're saying, Nuben. But you know how we gonna eat? How we gonna
really
be able to buy and
really
sell?
Did.
You know, how we gonna be able to do this if we ain't got the mark of the beast? I mean, what we gonna do? What you really saying is that in the beast you trust. And
you trust, right?
You forget the whole part. You forget the whole part about the elect being risen, because how you gonna quote the Revelation and talk about those who carry the mark of the beast and won't be able to buy and sell and trade, but then you forget the whole part about the elect being raised. You didn't say that part.
Right, and your role as the elect to find others like yourself. Simply put, everything is all about forward progressive movement, moving forward, thinking upper, forward movement, future tense only. That's how you. That's what I was trying to convey.
That's what I was trying to convey. But see, you can't convey that to certain people who are stuck in the present, in the now. Their mind is dead, and they got the mark. These people who are in the now, they got the mark of the beast. That like these Moors and all these other guys. Yeah, you know what's your status, and what you say is your status, this, that, and the third. And even in me saying that we as so-called black people. Hold on, let me just finish what I'm saying. Hold on, let me finish what I'm saying. And even me saying that, you know, if you're going to be filling out these things, put Native American, because that's real and more than African American. But all that status and all that stuff, they're going to think what they want to think. They're going to believe what they want to believe. The beast already got it framed in his mind. He's already a reprobate. He's already a damn degenerate. And whatever the beast got in his mind, and those who follow and got his mark, they're going to be on the same vibration. That's why I said when people start talking to me about all that, your status and, you know, what do you declare? Man, I don't want to hear that crap, man. I don't want to hear that. No disrespect to the brother that called, but, man, that's all that. You know how long I've been doing this? I just hear these people with the naysayers come up. Yeah, but Nuben, what you going to do? How we going to get money? How we going to be doing this, that, and the third? Well, like I said, you ain't been worrying about it. So don't worry about it.
Right. That's all I was thinking, how long you've actually dealt with this and what, like, the amount of restraint you were exercising. I could just appreciate that because you were just allowing the brother to say what he had to say, you know, and you dealt with it accordingly.
Yeah. That's all. Like I said.
But also, you know, when these people, go ahead.
No, go. What you can say? Go ahead.
I was going to say, I actually inboxed you this, but oftentimes when there's an excessive background noise, it'll be the equivalent of somebody pressing 1. Like if they yell or something like that right into the phone, it's just like pushing 1, and you'll think they pressed 1, but they did not. It's just excessive background noise. So if people, you know, the listeners, if you have excessive background noise, just put it on mute so he won't think you're pressing 1, chiming in, trying to ask a question.
Yeah. Okay.
But that's all right.
All right. Menzak, brother.
Menzak.
All right. We're going to play a little bit of music. And like I said, no disrespect to brother. I didn't mean to come down harsh on you, but we're not on that vibe, man. We're on a whole other vibration, man. We as the Mentalians, we're on another vibration. We ain't even thinking about this, man. We just ain't here, man. And like I said, brother, maybe this mental like it may not be for you, brother. I'm going to just be honest with you. Because you think about too many things that we as mentalists, mentalists, we don't put no energy into. We don't. Please, we don't want to be aligned with none of this stuff here in the society. We don't. We just passing through. We'll be right back. Let me tell y'all something, man. You hear people when they put too much energy into the system and the government and the powers that are currently in power. When you put too much energy into that, like I said, what you're letting me know is you can't see a time beyond that. See, when I told you people that you are the real Native Americans, you so-called black people, or really those copper-colored races that are described in the Merriam-Webster in the dictionary, when I told you all that, that was for your own edification, as the Israelites say. And that's for you to teach your children and teach their children that we're the real Americans here. We're the Native Americans. It's not for no damn status or to get the white man to acknowledge us. You niggas are still doing that and they're still talking like that. Y'all got the mark of the beast on you, man. You got the mark of the beast on you. It ain't for them. We don't care about what they think because they're going to think what they're going to think anyway. Who cares? It's for you all to bring this truth out because I notice with all of you guys that talk all this stuff, like I said, where's the Native American Museum? The Native American Museum should be stuffed with artifacts of the Olmecs, the Aztec, the Inca, the Maya, and the bronze inventors that was here. If anything, we supposed to have the Native American Museum. The Native American Museum should be the museum of so-called black people. That should be not no goddamn African American museum. Not no black museum, not no Negro museum. The Native American Museum is our museum. That's our historical, that's our heritage and history in this country. That's longer than 500 years, Tariq Nasheed. Now that you're changing up your answer, you need to take that 1526 or whatever the hell, I don't know where the hell you come up with that number from. But then now all of a sudden you changing up overnight and taking whole tracks of what I said all of a sudden. That's real suspect. But whatever. See, I don't really take offense to it because I know as long as the knowledge get out as far as that, like I said, it's not like you copying mental like other people doing and trying to call it something else. But like I said, we're not doing this for no goddamn status, man. Get your minds out of this Moorish garbage. The Moors are finished, man. Because all them niggas want to do is follow Islam, man, and they don't really want no real community. And their whole career is based on begging the white man, trying to get status, and trying to, basically trying to be honorary white people. That's what the Moors want to do. All this going back and forth in court with the white man. He don't give a damn. The white man don't care about none of this status crap. They don't care about none of that, and neither should you. If anything, you should be worrying about what your children think and what they're raised knowing, not believing, focused on what they raised knowing. That's who you should be trying to get status with and put this in the minds of their children. This is what you should be thinking about your children in the future and what you should be putting in their mind, not what the white man thinks or some status or whatever the thing, because he don't care about none of that. He don't care about no law. He don't care about no damn no constitution and all this other stuff that y'all think he do. He don't. When it starts to get in the way of what they doing, they throw all that out the window. So please stop talking to me about the Constitution and laws and all this other nonsense. They don't care about that, and neither should you. The only law that you should care about is the law of the Most High, which is Amen. And that is, we don't sit up here and we do not participate in any criminal activity. We do not participate in any we don't fight against the police. We don't fight against no criminal. We're not partaking in any criminal activity. We live in our lives upright people, upright Native American people. I'm talking about my people on this side in America. We are the Native Americans. We are. We are the descendants of the Native Americans, the real Native Americans, the Olmecs, Aztec, Inca, Mayan, those people. We are the Amen race. Just like that. Just like that. So again, like I said, I'm trying to clout chase and stand up in the white man's face. I didn't do this broadcast just so you could be okay. Now we know we're Native Americans. Now we could go and just tell the white man, go to them, and we could demand our rights, and just stuff it in their face. Nah, you ain't got to do that. You teach your children. That's important that they know. You set up museums, Native American museums and things like that, and let them know who the real Native Americans are, your children, your people, as much as you can tell them here in this country. That's what you do. That's what you do. You see? That's what you do. When we say we mentalists, like I said, that is an ideology. That's a mental ideology. We are mentalists. We are mentally connected, and we are on a list into this fourth dimensional state. We are mentalists. But we also know we are American. We are American. Real American. That goes that goes with saying and without saying. But we should make it known amongst our people. And whoever else hears it, so be it. Because black people got this thing where they want to constantly beat on their chest and constantly be, arguing back and forth with the white man, want to debate with the white man and all this other stuff. For what? For what? At the end of all that, he's going to still say you black and still say you a damn African American. And who the hell is he to be debating with? Why are you trying to prove anything to him? Why do you care about what he thinks? That's the problem. And that, again, y'all still got this black and white thing going in y'all head, even though y'all want to act like y'all don't. I'm talking about those of you who still with this, our status and, how are we going to talk? Nah, man, ain't no talking to them about nothing. It's about us, man, and only us. Let me take a call. Let them be who they're going to be, and we're going to be who we're going to be. They want to be whatever they want to claim they want to be, alt-right and all that. That's their business, man. They want to be all that. That's them. 347, you're on the air.
I'm good, yeah. What's up, Noah? How you doing?
All right.
Yeah. I'm glad you touched on this because when I listen with my dad, and you touch on certain topics, he'll be like, he don't got the answers. Because the white man, he'll come in and still call him a nigga, all that, and he'll shut all this shit down just like Dr. I'm like, man, that sounds hopeless. Like, how long do you really think that's gonna be going on? And then, like, it's been going on long enough, and I'm like, you're what? You just gonna comply? Because you have all this knowledge, and you teach me all this stuff, and you talking all this, but then when it comes down to what we really have to do, it's like, I don't know.
How old is your father?
Yeah.
How old is your father?
Like 40 something, like almost 50.
Yeah.
Let
me tell you something about people like that. He's around my age. Let me tell you something about people like that. I've come up with people like that, and they'll sit up here and they'll talk all this stuff, the history and drop knowledge and whatnot, but in their mind, the white man is their God. Your father is no different. And if he was on the phone, I'd tell him he worshiped the beast, man. That's why he says stuff like that. You got to understand, there's a lot of black people that got the mark of the beast on them. They worship his image. They like, if the white man want to come in, they the ones that really want the white man to come in and shut it down. Because they don't want no interference. Let me tell you something. Let me tell you the mindset of people like this. And no disrespect to your father. And if he was on the phone, you could put him on and I'd tell him. Straight up. They got the mark of the beast on them, and they really want to see this shut down. They hate seeing a bronze man raise up their people. They really want our people to remain as black people under the white man. That's really what that is.
Yeah, I'm telling them that, and it's like...
Now, ain't no telling him that. You know what you do?
Yeah,
you know what you do? You know what you do? Ain't no telling your father that because he's your father. He's your father. And I'm going to be honest with you. My father is the same way. So I know what you're talking about. Some of these people we come from, they got the mark of the beast on them. They're not of-arming. They think this is a cult. They think I'm a cult leader. They think we trying to just get money. And they think, I'm fantasizing. The white man want to call me a nigga. Because that's how he really thinks of himself. He defines himself by what the white man call him. He cares about what the white man calling him a nigga. If the white man want to call him a nigga and come in and he'll take down. Let me explain something about what happened with Dr. York. And I'm going to share why Dr. York is locked up in jail right now. I'm going to share this. And is your father listening?
No, he's asleep right now.
Well, he needs to get up and listen. Don't wake him up. He's probably got to go to work. But listen, Dr. York went to jail because he started getting involved in this American politics crap. He started getting involved in this Democratic and Republican nonsense and voting and, you know, and all that Moorish nonsense and things like that. See, when he was just being, you know, being Dr. York and doing the community and stuff like that, and no disrespect to the Nuwaubians at all, because they still going, when he was just focusing on just being a lodge in the community and not getting involved in all this voting crap and things like that, see, you can't get involved in the energy and the workings of the beast. That's not our place. Our place is to build our own community separate and quietly, man, and just, you know, don't interfere with they thing. Just leave them alone. You know, it's not until our people start going and trying to interfere and get involved in their voting process and all this nonsense here, that's when our people get caught up in this. Because it's not none of the things that they doing is designed for our people to follow anyway. I was out there in Georgia when all that stuff went down. I was out there. I know what really happened. I'm pretty sure your father don't know nothing about that.
Nah, he was part of the community. Like, he learned nothing too, but yeah, and it's like, it's crazy. Yeah, it's crazy how that he was, and he says this stuff, and I'm like, what else is there? I mean, I'm not what else is there, but yeah, what else is there? Like, you got Nuben Menkarayzz, he preaching all this knowledge, and what, you think he's a fraud just making up Amen? Like, it wouldn't make any sense based on who you follow.
Of course he do. Of course he do. That's fine. Let's put it all on the table. Your father was up. I tell him straight up, it's okay that he called me a fraud. It's okay that he called me a con man. It's okay that he believes that the white man will take me down, and that what matters is what the white man say, and that I'm just a nigga in the white man's eyes, and that's important because it's good that people like your father show themselves. It's good that people like your father show themselves. We need to see all these people as they really are, so we know not to deal with these people. Now, if you want to still associate, that's your father. I ain't gonna never tell you cut your father. That's your father. But realistically, it's gonna come a time if you really of this message and you are of the future and of the next, then you're gonna want to do that anyway. I'm not telling you to do that, but you're gonna want to do that because your father's of the now and he's of the past. He's of the past and the present. He's of the now, man. He don't get the next, and like a lot of black people don't. So that's why they still worrying about the white man. What is there to worry about?
Yeah.
I mean, really, what is there to worry about? Death? Death? You're going to die anyway. What is there to worry about? Oh, the white man going to come and kill us or put us in jail? And that's what you're scared of? It's
an ego thing. It's an ego thing.
Yeah, well, of course it is. And when you get right, that's how I know how the black man thinks. Who that nigga think he is? I already know your fault. Who that nigga think he is? I was in, right?
Yeah, they're so predictable.
The black people are the black man is so predictable to whereas they played out, man, just like the white man. Who the nigga think he is? Well, he don't know nothing. If the white man come in, what you doing? He probably mad you listening to me. You know why I know that? Because my father used to be mad at me for listening to Dr. York, because my father and Dr. York around the same age, and my father had that jealousy with him, so I could see it coming from your father. That's all that is, man. They like I said, they got the mark of the beast on them, man. It is what it is. But you live with your father?
Yeah.
Okay. Well,
and I miss time with him. I'm kind of getting back with him or whatever. So it's.
Say it now.
Like I miss time with him. Like I was mostly with my mom. And I just came back from him recently, a few months ago.
Okay.
And he got me up. He got me up on my feet. My mom is like, she's 50.
And your father's 50?
He's almost 50.
Okay, yeah, he's around my age and whatnot. Listen, let me tell you something. Like I said, no disrespect your father, your mother. Just, how old are you?
19.
19. Just, next year, get your own place, man. You want see? I'm gonna give you an analogy of this. See, the extended minds, the future minds, are never gonna evolve if they stay tied to these old roots, man. See, these old roots, aka these old Negroes. You know what I'm saying? And we got them in every generation. They tied to the beast mentally still, man. They still tied to this three-dimensional thing. They don't think this is ever going to evolve or grow past that because these are the people that are really in the way of stopping the growth from happening. They really are the gatekeepers that want to protect the beast, and they want us to remain as black people because really they don't see themselves in that future world. They don't see this. What I'm describing, they'll never be able to see it because they're not of it. And it's because they know they're not of it, they don't want you to see it. And you their own son. You his son. You don't want you to see it. I got it because again, what is it? What are we supposed to do? We supposed to just sit here and just accept how things are and just live this.
Right, I tell them that all the time.
That's what we're supposed to do.
Right. Every time I say that, it's like you got nothing to say.
Of course he don't.
Yeah.
Of course he don't.
Man.
Like most black people don't. They ain't got nothing to say. That's all this emotion, anger, hate, confusion, frustration, envy, who this nigga think he is. That's how that, and again, this is why Amin is not dealing with the black race. That's why I said mental intellect is not for black people. I wasn't joking.
Mm-hmm.
It's not for black people. Your father's obviously a black man. There's nothing that can be done for him. You are the hope for the next day. You are the continuation. You are the things. You represent all the things that he will never see. That's why you got to make your own mark in the sand and separate yourself. And you be the next generation. Maybe you can bring him back, but he ain't going to get it on this side. He's him. It's like all these black, they done, man. But listen, brother, thank you for calling in.
Thank you for taking my call. Thanks.
All right. Okay. We're going to take another brief break. And let me see what I want to play. All right. We'll be right back. All right. So we're going to come to the end of this. I basically said everything I had to say, and I made the differentiation between the Native Americans, which is what we are, and the American Indians, which is these Asians who are posing as Native Americans. Again, there's a difference. The so-called black race, which is the bronze, copper-colored races, are the Native Americans. From the Olmecs, descendants of the Olmecs, Aztecs, Incans, and Mayans. Those are our descendants. So I just wanted to put that out there. And no, stop showing us with the straight hair because we had the woolly hair. This is, and again, and even the so-called Black Panther thing is linked to America. Black Panther and Panthers in general are linked to America. Our people, the Olmecs and the Aztec and all of them, they were dealing, we had the Black Panther, and they were, walking around with the Panthers, and when the same way we walk around with house cats is how they was walking around with Panthers. Remember, LL Cool J made that out record, walk like a panther, something like that. He had the panther in the damn video. So they know. But let me go ahead and read these questions before we get out of it. What's the difference between the Native Americans and American Indians? The Native Americans are so-called black people, the bronze, copper-colored races. We are not black people. We are the copper-colored races that Merriam-Webster was describing when they were describing Native Americans or what true Americans are. Everybody else that came after us, like your American Indians and so forth, those are the immigrants. We're not immigrants. We are natives. Everybody else that came after us are immigrants. The natives are the first people here, which we were. We are Americans. Who are the Native Americans? We are so-called black people. So if y'all want to wear that American flag, go ahead and wear it. You got every right to wear it. That's why they noticed the beast had us fighting in all these wars and things like that in this country. If we ain't native, then why they had us fighting in all the wars? Right? They didn't have all these other races fighting in the wars because they immigrants. They came later. We fought in every war from the beginning of this thing when they started calling it the United States. Who are the American Indians? These Asians that crossed the Bering Straits, these Asians and these East Indians, which became your Eskimos and your Mexicans and these, these fake, these American Indians who call themselves American Indians. Why do people try to make these titles synonymous? Because they know that Native American and American are two separate people, but they want to put them together. They don't want you to know that the Native Americans are, because they still know that 1828 definition of what an American is, the copper-colored races, don't fit in with the red-skinned man, which is what they call the American Indian. They call them redskins. We're not the redskins. We're the copper-colored people, the copper-colored races, not red, copper, which is more of a brownish, like a brownish type of copper-colored elemental hue. What should Native Americans know about? Why should we know? Native Americans know about who we truly are, so we can stop with this African American nonsense and stop claiming Africa, because Africa is not our home. America is, and that's it. And no, we didn't come on those slave ships. We was already here. We was the first people here in this country, thousands of years, and that's it. We're gonna close out the name of Amen by the power of Amen, and Amen we trust, and Amen we thank. And then we continue forward forever. I am the intellectual Nuben Menkarayzz. This has been Intellect Radio. I'll see you guys back here tomorrow at 10. Good night. Well, I want to close with. Okay.
Still Republic of Mentellect, rising out the black race to the white race, out the black race to the white race. It's the Republic of Mentellect, black race to the white race. If it's hell, then it's hell us. They tried everything just to spell us. Fed us religion, gave us fake gods. Through all of that, we beat the odds. Now we coming together under one flag. Colors red, gold, and blue. Superman, Superwoman, that's me and you. The infinite capabilities that we can